everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is Angie and I'm a teen mom to two beautiful babies. So I'm just gonna start off by saying I've tried to film this video so many times and I've just had so many problems, but I'm convinced that this time is going to be the time that works. So today I'm going to be telling you guys my birth story of my all-natural water birth with my second baby, my son, and I'm going to try to put some video clips in that I took, some pictures that people took. I didn't vlog the whole thing, and you guys will find out why later, mostly because it was such a short labor, so I didn't have time to vlog. But yeah. Also, when he wakes up, I will be getting him and you guys will get to meet him and find out his name and all of that fun stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So I'm just going to start off by saying that I had so many false labor scares, and I thought I was in labor so many times, and it was actually a week over my due date. So yeah. So I was 6 days over my due date. My due date was December 2nd and I had him on December 8th. So I'm going to start with the night of December 7th. Me and my husband were watching The Hunger Games. I don't know why I remember that, but yeah, we were just watching The Hunger Games. We had been a few nights prior just because we were finishing the series. It was the last one on the series. That part of the story doesn't really matter, but you know, whatever. We were watching The Hunger Games and I had started to feel tiny contractions, cramps, but I didn't even time them because I was just so like, oh, well, it's not real, because I had so many false labor scares that I was just like, I'm not even gonna time them. If I go into like full-blown labor, I'll know it's fine not timing them. Those started around 1 o'clock in the morning, and that was about right when the movie ended, and I told my husband, I said, well, you know what, let's go try to get some sleep just in case I do go into labor tonight. We're gonna want to get some sleep. This was a Tuesday, so he had work the next morning, and we came in to bed. He laid down and fell asleep right away. I laid down for probably about 10 minutes and then I realized, okay, these are getting a little bit stronger, so maybe I should just start timing them. I timed only a few of them and I was like, okay, they're 5 minutes apart. I'm gonna go ahead and text my midwife. So basically I am an hour and a half away from the birth center where I gave birth, and she pretty much just told me, okay, it's time to come in, and that was not at all what I was expecting, but that's what she said. So after about 30 minutes of my husband sleeping, I woke him up and it was like, hey, it's time to go. We packed my toddler up into the car, and she actually came with us to the birth center. That wasn't the original plan, but the person that was supposed to watch her got hurt before I went into labor, and so we ended up just taking her up there with us because my mom, my grandma, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, they were all going to be up there with us, so we would have plenty of people to keep their eye on her while we were there. So I called my mom, and I remember telling my mom, I was like, I feel so bad about waking you up because I don't think this is real. I'm pretty convinced it's not, so I'm sorry for waking you up, but we're headed up there just in case it is real. And you know, she was like, okay, we'll head up there too. And she went and got my grandma and they headed up there. And then we called my in-laws and we told them that I was in labor and that we were headed up there. And I remember we stopped pretty quickly to get gas, and then we were headed up there. The ride was actually not horrible. It wasn't too bad. I was in quite a bit of pain towards the end. I remember the contractions were getting a little bit stronger, but I still was not convinced that I was in labor. But yeah, they started to get pretty strong, and we pulled up, and my husband got my daughter out of the car, and my in-laws were there, and I pretty much just walked inside. I remember my chest hurt a little bit when I was walking inside just because I was hyperventilating a lot. Not necessarily hyperventilating, but like stopping breathing, like holding my breath during the contraction. So I remember my chest hurt a little bit. But yeah, I walked in there, and this is a part I forgot to put in there because it's kind of embarrassing, but on the way up there during a big contraction, I actually peed myself, and my husband was like, maybe your water broke, and I was like, no, I peed myself. Like, I know that I peed myself. So yeah. So when I first got in there, I told my midwives, I was like, hey, I peed myself. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. And at this point, the contractions were 2 minutes apart, and so I sat down to go to the bathroom. I took off my pants, and my midwife said, hey, like, we need to check you. Like, I need to check how dilated you are, you know, all of that. And so after I was done on the bathroom, I went and laid in the bed. Keep in mind that we got there at 3:15 in the morning. So it's 3:15 a.m. and she checked how dilated I was, and I was 8 centimeters, and I was still walking around talking perfectly fine. And I remember asking her, I said, are you sure? Like, this is real. Are you positive that I'm in labor? And she was like, absolutely. After she checked me, I remember asking, like, hey, can I get in the water? I also had a doula there with me, and she was amazing. She was such an amazing doula, and she helped me get in the water, and I had contractions in the water. All was well. The water was really warm. It was really, really peaceful in the water. My contractions hurt 10 times less in the water. Not stress this enough. The water was the turning point of my labor. The water was amazing. And then I hit transition, which any of you moms that have been through labor know what transition is. It is where you hit 9 or 10 centimeters and it is time to push. And after I hit transition, I remember feeling so sick. And I told my doula that I'm gonna throw up, I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna puke, I'm gonna puke. I remember telling her multiple times, and nobody was really doing anything about it. Like, the midwives weren't like running to get a bucket or anything. And I found out later that it's actually really, really common for women to feel like they're gonna throw up once they hit transition. And so that's why nobody was like, oh, here's a bag, you know, because it's really, really common. And I actually didn't end up throwing up. I just felt like I was going to. And then shortly after that, it was time to push. And anyone that doesn't want to hear the, you know, kind of gross details of labor, if you have a weak stomach, any of that, I would stop from this point on because I'm going to go into detail. So yeah. But I started pushing, and I remember that it was horrible. Pushing out a baby is pretty painful. So yeah, it was horrible. And I remember saying, I can't do this. I was pushing for like one time, so like 20 seconds, and I was like, I can't do this. And then I remember reaching my hand down, and I felt his head crowning. And I remember that. I remember reaching down and just feeling my baby right there, and that got me through another push, which pushed his head out, and then the rest of his body. So overall, I pushed for maybe 2 minutes, not even that. And then once he came out, I was actually the very first person to lay my hands on this beautiful baby boy. And so I am the one who picked him up out of the water and laid him on my chest, and all felt right in that moment. It was really the perfect labor story, and I wish that it was all perfect and it ended there and, you know, all of that. But you guys will find out that it was not great the rest of the time. But yeah, so I held him, and he was born at 4 in the morning. So I was only at the birth center for 45 minutes before I had him, which is crazy to me because if I listened to myself and said, I'm gonna wait to call the midwives, then I probably would have ended up having a baby in the car or at home. So I am very glad that I texted the midwife and went up there and all of that. But after I held him for a few minutes, it was time to get out of the water. I remember people were holding me up, and I was holding him, And, you know, I stepped up a few steps, and I remember getting out of the water and, you know, obviously blood and all of that poured out, but it seemed like a lot of blood, more than there should have been, I guess. I continued my way to the bed. I got on the bed and I was laying down for probably, I want to say until like 5 in the morning. For like an hour, it was just me and him. He was still attached to the umbilical cord, and they had delivered my placenta, which obviously was painful, but I didn't think anything was wrong at the time. But yeah, he was still attached and my placenta was delivered and I was just holding him. And then I remember my family was in the room and the midwives were out of the room. And I remember looking around and I remember saying, I'm gonna pass out, take him from me now. Like, take him from me. I remember looking at everybody like, take him from me. And later when I talked to my family, they said that I was completely mumbling. They could not understand a word I was saying, and I turned sheet white. Somebody ended up taking my baby out of my arms, and I passed out. After I passed out, people were running out of the room getting midwives and all of that. The midwives came, and I remember waking up for a brief second, and I apparently projectile vomited all over my mother-in-law, all over my husband, all over my baby, like projectile vomited at least a few feet. My husband said it was very, very scary to see somebody puke that far. Thankfully, I was so out of it, I don't even remember puking. Then I remember fully coming to consciousness again, and I remember like I was laying in pretty much puke. Like, I could smell the puke, and I was like, did I throw up? And they were like, yeah, you projectile vomited all over everybody. And yeah, I just remember finally coming back to like my senses, and I was like, okay, I'm dizzy, I don't feel good. And that is when my midwife had told me that my placenta came out backwards for some reason, and I was losing a lot more blood, way more blood than they like. And so she actually called the ambulance from the closest hospital and had them waiting. They were ready to load me up in the ambulance and take me to the hospital, which in my mind sounded horrible. I mean, there is a pandemic going on. I did not want to go to the hospital. I really just felt safe at the birth center, and I was absolutely not wanting to go to the birth center, or I absolutely was not wanting to go to the hospital. And so I asked her, like, what are the options? And she said that there is a possibility that since my placenta turned around, that a piece of my placenta could still be left in me, which causes a tremendous amount of problems. Even weeks down the road from when you give birth, you could start hemorrhaging again, and it's because a piece of your placenta is left inside of you, and it could be weeks before anybody notices. And so she had pretty much told me that she can do, I think it was called like a uterine sweep or something like that, is where this is going to be graphic. This is my, you know, thing. And they pretty much shove their whole arm up there and sweep it out with a piece of gauze around their hand. Just yeet it all out of there, you know, and get it out of you. That seemed like the worst thing in the world. Or she said that I could possibly go to the hospital and they would want to do a D&C. And so I decided that yes, you can do that. Obviously, I didn't really have much choice. I was hemorrhaging, bleeding way, way too much. My blood pressure bottomed out. Like, I was not doing good at all. So they had entered a catheter because I could not move from the bed, and so I had a catheter in, and people had to hold my legs because it was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. I had just got done pushing a baby out, and that still hurt worse. She had to do it 2 times, and there was still a piece of placenta left in me, which is actually really scary. But now that I look back on it, I am really, really glad that she got it out and that I didn't have to go to the hospital. I'm so, so thankful that I didn't have to go to the hospital. When they did that, people were holding my legs, including my doula, and I remember forcefully like pulling my legs from them so hard that they had to dig their fingers into my legs to hold me still, and it was very, very painful. And after that, I was finally given my baby boy back, and my catheter was taken out, and that hurt so bad. But I was finally given my baby boy back, and I was able to you know, start breastfeeding with him. They were able to get his length and weight, and he was 8 pounds and 20 inches, and all of that traumatic stuff was finally over. Thank goodness, because that was horrible. Like I said, the birth was so peaceful, but the aftermath was so traumatic, and I will not forget that, and I don't want anybody near me, any doctor, sticking their hands at me for a very, very, very long time. This is Hudson. He is 7 weeks old today. Also, look at these sock monkey jammies. So cute. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the story of this little man's birth. And hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And make sure to hit subscribe so you can watch some vlogs and some videos with this little cutie in them. But yeah, we love you guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.